Jean Marie Napolitano.
Here.
Naomi Neville.
Here.
There's a quorum present, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag
Of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And I would ask if you have cell phones to please turn off the ringer. Thank you. First order of business. Did anyone sign up for the Citizens Forum?
No, they have not.
Okay.
The consent calendar.
Madam Chair, I make a motion to approve the consent calendar in its entirety.
Second.
There's a motion and second to approve the consent calendar in its entirety. Discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it.
Application for a new vittling license, Winner Winner Inc., DBA Winner Winner, 677 Thames Street.
Yes, this is a VIT license for Winner Winner at 677 Thames Street. I move approval.
Second.
There's a motion and second. Discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it.
Appointments to boards and commissions.
We have no appointments to boards and commissions, but we do have a lot of openings. I would suggest anyone who wants to check the website. We're certainly encouraging participation from the community.
Communication from James Egan regarding the Pop and Shop solution.
Yes, this is a communications. I move to receive.
Second.
There's a motion and second. Discussion. Hearing.
Somebody wants to speak.
Madam Chair, I make a motion to receive.
Second.
There's a motion and second to receive. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it.
Thanks for
Your
letting me.
name and address for the record, please.
Oh, my name is Jim Egan, and I live at 75 E Pelham Street, but I'm talking about right now my museum. I'm the curator of the Newport Tower Museum, dedicated to the history of the Newport Tower, which is called the Old Stone Mill, to some of you, in Toro Park. My wife and I own a 152-154 Mill Street. That's the one-story white building that's at the intersection of Bellevue, sometimes called the Old Red Cross Building. Besides our museum, our tenants are Mimi for Kids, they have a baby clothing store, and Tiffany Pay, a jewelry store opening in May. These are all destination shops that bring people to Newport. In 2004, the previous owners, Janet and Bill Jacklin, renovated the building, and they opened a dress shop and rented half of it to a houseware store. In 2006, they appealed to the City Council to make the 5 spaces on Mill Street, nearest Bellevue, like the map you see, 2-hour parking instead of all-day parking, saying it would benefit the area businesses and there would still be 33 unrestricted parking spaces around Toro Park. That's the quote from City Council meeting. The measure passed 5-1. In 2008, when my wife and I bought the building, the Jacklin said, "Oh, you're going to love this building, it's the cutest thing in the neighborhood." But they warned us, "Don't let the realtors push you around." I didn't know quite what they meant, but I found out over the past 8 years. The real estate company next door now lists 40 realtors. Not all of them, but some of them park in the 2-hour spaces for over 4 to 6 hours at a clip, and sometimes all day long. I called Police Sergeant Jonathan Cortez and his predecessors over 25 times. His meter maids are prompt, but all they can really do is chalk the tires. The realtors play the move the car to a new spot game, and even the wipe off the chalk mark game. One day I had a friendly conversation with one of the realtors who had just received a $25 green parking ticket. She told me she had paid $600 in parking fees last year, and her associate had paid $800, and they had budgeted the same amount for next year. I felt pangs of guilt. I was the guy who had called the police. But then I did the math. 800 divided by 250 workdays makes $3.20 per day. That's cheaper than the Gateway Visitor Center Mary Street lots. They're $24 a day. These guys had the best deal in town, and they only paid if they got caught. One day, while my tenant was discussing the situation with the meter maid, one of the realtors happened by and he quipped, "Hey, buddy, get over it. This is Newport." I thought, that's not the Newport I talk about at my museum, the birthplace of American freedom. Another day, I was discussing the issue with the meter maid when 2 realtors came dashing out of the building. "Hey, is it okay if we just switch spaces?" The meter maid replied, "I guess so. There's nothing really I can do about that." That was my turning point. That month, they made a presentation to the Interdepartmental Traffic Commission. They saw it as an enforcement issue, and Sergeant Jonathan Cortez said he would talk to the realtors. Well, he did. And he later responded to me that, quote, as long as they are paying their parking fines, they are not breaking the law, and there's nothing more I can do about it. Don't get me wrong. Sergeant Cortez and his meter mates do an excellent job. However, across the United States, the average capture rate for overtime parking is only about 10%. After much contemplation, I came to realize that Sergeant Cortez was absolutely right. And the business owner and the property owner next door, they absolutely did nothing wrong. They have no say over independent contractors. I should know. I was an independent contractor for 40 years. We're solo flyers. We do what we want. And even they did nothing wrong because they were paying dearly for it. And it was a positive cash flow for the city budget. So in this conundrum, I searched for a creative solution. I discovered that cities with similar problems have implemented a tiered system on Main Street. The shorter your visit, the closer you can park to your destination. All across the country, the hottest trend is the 30-minute quick zone, also called pop and shop parking. It's the same concept used in modern parking garages, half-hour parking on the ground level, multiple-hour parking on the upper levels. I interviewed shop owners on William Street and Broadway across from City Hall, and they're all delighted with the 30-minute parking spaces they have. Look, we're Americans. We know that a 2-hour parking space can easily be fudged into 3 hours by the time they chalk you and then get around to returning. And a 1-hour space is really a 2-hour space, and a half-hour space is really an hour. But I'd be cool with that. I'd never call the police if someone only parked for an hour. It's the 4 to 6 hour parkers in all 5 spaces that get my goat. To conclude, going to pop and shop parking would be a win-win solution for everyone. The meter maids would have less of an enforcement issue because the people would police themselves. Artists could drop off paintings at the Spring Bull Gallery group shows. Grandma could pick up a last-minute present for little Joey at Mimi's. Hayden at Meg's Milk Bar hopes it will expand his takeout business. People come from all across America for a quick photo in front of the Newport Tower. Plus,
Mr. Egan, I'm sorry, but
Okay.
we have a 3-minute limit.
Well, I was told it was 5.
Oh,
It was 5. We
Yes.
ran 5. That was 5
we
minutes.
That was
ran
fine.
5, okay.
So this past holiday season, you guys said, let's support Shop Local and support Mom and Pop. Well, here's the opportunity for you to help us. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jim.
Madam Chair?
Yes.
I would say we should receive it, send it to ITC, but I think actually it's a really worthy idea to study. So, but I think the ITC should make a recommendation on it. So that would be a motion.
Second.
There's a motion and second discussion.
Madam Chair,
Yes,
I would
Counselor.
just weigh in that it was a little distressing to hear that the best we could do is say, well, they pay their fines. Maybe we've already increased the fine for violation of sticker parking in that general area of the city. Maybe we need to increase the pain for violating other parking regulations as well if people aren't going to pay attention to the ones we've got. We don't have a system by which you get a higher fine the second time you do it or the third time, but maybe we should look at that. You know, maybe if somebody's getting 10, 20 tickets a year, there ought to be a real sting to it. So I would just suggest that we consider broadly some ideas like that.
Thank you. Any other discussion? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it.
Resolution supporting Senate Bill S-2562 and House Bill H-7742.
Yes, there was legislation that was being promulgated upstate in terms of building code fees, and it was to do a statewide program. And what transpired when they took a look at it is that it adversely impacted particularly Newport and Middletown communities. So now there's legislation up there to delay the process of implementing it, but also requiring the building commissioner to submit a financial impact report of the process of the formula and options for establishing a statewide fee. We would be in support of that delay to give time to really work out these numbers and see how it impacts not only Newport and Middletown, but perhaps other communities. I move passage.
Second.
There's a motion and second. Discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it.
Action number 5500.
Madam Chair, at this time, I'd like to make a motion to move item 5502 up to after item 5500 and take them both together.
There's a motion and second. Discussion. Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it.
Okay, Madam Chair, as per action item 5500, the Department of Public Services recommends approval of a supplemental agreement associated with the contract for Newport Public Schools number 15-014 to provide architectural services for the Rogers High School roof project, utilizing the State of Rhode Island Master Price Agreement for Professional Services, MPA number 494, to Edward Rouse Architects Incorporated of Providence, Rhode Island, in a not-to-exceed amount of $65,750 and an all-in amount of $169,700.00. It is currently budgeted under the facilities bond. I move approval of accompanying resolution.
There's a motion and second. Discussion. And before we begin, I would just like to say, I have spent the better part of the last 2 days trying to ferret out the information and misinformation which has permeated the blogs. What we're voting on, this is a request for the architectural and engineering services that were used for evaluating the replacement of the roof at Rogers, which was seriously failing. Council realizes that the repair of the roof is a necessity, not an option. Council already acknowledged their responsibility for this project by including it in the $6 million bond approved by the voters, taxpayers, in November of 14. The Rhode Island Department of Education introduced a new program in August 2014 with an addendum in October of 15, which required architectural and engineering team to do a district-wide assessment of all schools as part of Stage 1 application process. Again, approved by the resolution of the council and voted on publicly at our meeting November 18, 2015. This addendum would provide cities and towns with up to 35% reimbursement on repairs on existing school buildings. The cost of these services in total was $169,700, which is what we're voting on tonight, so that we can include Rogers' roof application for reimbursement from the state and receive approximately 35% of the cost of doing that repair.
Madam Chair,
Yes, Counselor?
I think, just for clarification here, we are voting on item 5500 right here, the roof. We are not voting on 5502, which you were just talking about as being a separate approval for the Stage 2 application. Is that correct?
That's
All right, so this is only for the roof because you kind of combined them. Okay.
Well, I know, and that's where the confusion lies. There's two separate votes here, and this is to allow that roof to be included in Stage 1.
This includes, just if I can,
Go.
Madam Chairman.
Wait a minute. Let the manager speak, and then we'll go.
5500, the council letter in front of you, are additional funds that are being expended to support the Stage 2 application. We started out originally with architectural and engineering services for the Rogers roof.
Right.
But things have evolved over the many months in terms of the Stage 2 application process, which is simply a reimbursement process that you're going to follow up and discuss in 5502. This is just the hiring of the money that we needed to expend to retain the architectural and engineering services, not only to deal with the roof, but to deal with the whole application process that resulted in the I'll call it the strategic plan that's attached to 5502, which defines all of the needs for the school facilities over a 5-year span.
Thank you.
Madam Chair?
Yes, and then
I
Councilor
like to
Flores.
know what I'm voting for.
Well, you're
So-
voting on 5500.
As a separate entity we already raised the funds through the bond. We approved the bond to do the roof. So, in front of me, I see this item to approve for the next step in the roof. So are we now tying that together with this other docket item? So if
We
I
are.
vote for this, am I forcing myself to go into the next phase, or is this a separate
You're
entity?
not forcing yourself to do anything.
I
We're
know
paying
I'm
for
not.
architectural, this is the authorization in the resolution for $65,000, which supplements 2 other resolutions that this council approved for architectural and engineering services, not only for the Rogers roof, but for the Stage 1 application that was submitted to RIDE, that was approved, and we were invited to submit a Stage 2 application. And this is just simply for the money to pay the architect and the
Thank
engineer
you. That's
for
all I
the,
need
for
to
the,
know.
for the work that he's done on the package. That includes the elements of 5502, the second letter you're going to consider.
Okay. It came
I
up.
think, quite frankly, and I think it's well spelt out in the letter, so
Yes.
if you have any confusion at all, I guess I could say it's well spelt out in the document.
Well, there wasn't confusion until we got the second package a little while ago that went on the docket on Monday. So I can say that.
Well, all you have in front of you is 5500
Thank you,
right now.
that's all I want to know.
Okay.
Thank you.
Councilor Flores.
You know, one of the elements of our modern-day political system is lack of accountability when it comes to presenting facts. On the national level, you have factcheck.org, PolitiFact, and even then, politicians take a lot of liberty with just expressing anything that they feel is an opinion that they try to pass as fact. But I think as local representatives, we really need to exercise a lot of caution in what we disseminate out there, especially in the local blogosphere. I had numerous constituents reach out to me thinking that today we were going to vote on a $26 million expenditure.
Right.
And I think this is and this is not an attack on anyone in particular, but I think we just need to be a lot more careful of that as elected representatives here in Newport. Thank you.
Madam Chair?
Yes, Councilor McLaughlin.
I think that there are two main points I want to bring out. You know, when we started this process last summer, actually, we voted in on my birthday, August 26th. I think at that point in time, we really weren't thinking in terms of Stage 1 and Stage 2. We were hiring an architect to do work on Rogers Roof that the city was going to take care of. And then we became aware in the ensuing months that we actually could qualify for up to 35% of the cost of that repair by going through the RIDE process. And so we then agreed on November 18th to support the Stage 1 application. Now, interestingly enough, for those those who go back and look at the details, we may actually have voted on that after all the work had to get done. Because if we didn't, we were going to place at risk the ability to go forward at that point in time to pursue state reimbursement for repairs to our school. Even today, the letter from the architect dated 24 February, or 23 February, it falls in a cycle. It was the day before a city council meeting in February, and the next city council meeting is today, and the product has to be in Providence on the 15th. We haven't actually been helped by the schedule. But I think there's a really important point here, and I hope the manager will speak to it afterwards, is there are times when the people we hired to help run the city have to make decisions that are in our best benefit. And we trust them to do that. And if they don't do it right, we could vote no tonight, and Joe Nicholson and Bill Riccio could pay the $47,000 or whatever it is we're adding to this. But that would be foolish because they've made the prudent decision to move forward on this. But the truth of the matter is, a lot of this work that we're funding tonight has been done because if it hadn't been done, we wouldn't be able to make the application by the 15th of March, and we would not be able to then qualify in this year for reimbursement. Have I hit some
No, you have, the process, my view of the process, and Bill Riccio and Colleen Germain have been more intimately involved in the process, but the process has not been very cooperative with us. It's put us under some deadlines, and as we know, I can't just call you guys up on the phone and get a yay or nay vote. So it was a necessity for us to move forward in an expeditious manner. What's at risk? $900 and some odd thousand of no reimbursement. That's what's at risk. I look at this in a very myopic way, that we've acted in a certain manner so we can get in a line, in a queue, so we can at least qualify for this year's reimbursement when we do the Rogers roof. The Rogers roof is going to happen and be repaired and reconstructed no matter what happens. As Gene indicated, the voters and the taxpayers approved a bond for that intent, to repair and reconstruct the Rogers roof, which is in decrepit shape. You all recall the report that was done. That's going to happen anyways, no matter what happens this evening. That horse is out of the bond. What we need to strive for is that reimbursement. It's important. I think all of you would agree with me that why not do a project for $2 million that costs $3 million? I mean, I could go on for a while about this and make it an analogy to Broadway. Why don't we do a $6 million project which costs us $3 million when someone else is paying for it? This is strictly following the protocols of RIDE, and that's what Mr. Riccio and the superintendent have been attempting to achieve in a very short window. And I would applaud them for moving forward so aggressively on this and hitting the deadlines. If you approve the application, this goes in, and we had a meeting yesterday, and we're just talking about the flow of money back to the city. This is not authorization to do anything at all by the city. You guys, we need to have a larger conversation at some time about this strategic plan that you're considering this evening. A larger conversation. How does it get funded? Does it get funded? Will it get funded? That's the larger conversation. But we know the Rogers roof is going to happen anyways because you've already been there. So we're just trying to get the flow of cash back to us that we believe we're entitled to.
Madam Chair.
Yes, Councilor Neville.
I would just mention, too, that this was discussed at the last council school liaison meeting fairly in depth with Bill Riccio in attendance, and those dates were reviewed, and the need to put it on the docket quickly was discussed.
Any other comments? Okay, are we ready to vote? Hearing, there's a motion and a second to approve. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? The ayes have it.
Action number 5502.
Madam Chair, Department of Public Services recommends approval of the Stage 2 application materials for Newport school facilities. Madam Chair, it is currently budgeted under the facilities bond for Rogers Roof Project, and additional funds are available for capital projects and capital reserve fund. Future capital funding will be required in future years to advance other projects eligible for reimbursement. I move approval of accompanying resolution.
Second.
There's a motion and second. Discussion.
Madam Chair?
Yes, Counselor.
I actually think that some of the confusion tonight is when we say it's currently budgeted. This act spends no money.
Right.
Yeah,
It doesn't spend a dime.
right.
All it does is
That's
it
right.
accepts the Stage 2
Right.
analysis that's been done by Bill Riccio and his consultants.
Right.
And it authorizes us to send it to RIDE and find out how much of this will they help us pay for.
Right.
So I think that's caused some confusion.
Okay.
While I've got the floor, I just want to make a point. I think it's a great document. I wish I had a document like this to tell me what I needed to do in my home in the next 5 years. This is strategic planning. This is looking at the future and knowing what you have to plan for. At the same time, though, maybe we need to look at some of those facilities and say, do we need all of them? When I looked at some of the, do we need to fix the roof on everything? Population in the high school has gone down. I think we need to be realistic about, as we move forward, do we actually have to maintain every piece of property that we own today? The answer may be we do, but I think we should conduct that analysis as we move forward.
Madam
Thank
Chair?
you, Madam Chair.
Yes, Counselor?
I looked at this, and we received it on Monday, and today's Wednesday, and this list of, or I should say, an analysis of the condition of the schools is sitting before us, and from Monday till today, I looked at it and asked myself some questions, and no, this doesn't cost us money right here and now, and we're talking about $26 million, but my issue is this. What are the future implications of moving forward with this? And I'm a money girl, and I tried my best to look at the big picture and down the road. Yes, and here's a big thing to me. First of all, we put it on the docket, and it's Wednesday now. This was on Monday, and I call it, my personal name for these things is government by emergency. Hurry up and vote. So we have this in front of us, and my next question was, wait a minute, we had what appears to be a whole lot of deferred maintenance here, $26 million worth. And then I said, how come? How come we have $26 million of deferred maintenance that no one seemed to shine a light on? And all of a sudden, from Monday till today, here's the big spotlight. And it's my understanding that we hired, or the school committee hired somebody in November. And so now this comes to us today because we have to have an immediate vote. And I say to myself, that's kind of funny, we should be maintaining our buildings, but seem to take a long time to get here. Then I say to myself, as a taxpayer and somebody who said I would watch the city's money and how people spend it, is how would we fund this $26 million? Where's the money going to come from? So I look at what is here, a 5-year plan, which is commendable, and it took a lot of work, I'm sure, and say, well, does it appear to be that we have a 5-year plan, and we're going to put X dollars each of the 5 years, and if that's the case, would it be out of the general fund? Or, because it's such a huge amount of money, would this money be going to the taxpayers, or the voters rather, for a bond issue? So what are we really asking to progress with? And that's a problem to me, because I think that if it's 13 million, which is half, or 26 million, that the people have a right to vote or not vote whether they're going to accept it. Then I get into this as a concept, which is totally understandable. It's a concept of doing all the deferred maintenance and in a 5-year plan. And that would be to get 35% funding. I get it. I totally get it. But then I say, what happens if we can't raise the money, which I'm told we need to do $13 million worth of work in order to qualify for the money back? And if that's the case, which is not clear because we haven't had time to digest or ask enough questions, then does that mean that if we don't raise the money and we don't do the work, do we then give the state a reason to stop funding other things that they have bonded? And I think that's a big question that all of us would like answered. And I look at all the things that need to be done. I'm not saying they don't need to be done, but I think that the public deserves to know, if you are voting on this, what are our future obligations? We're not voting here for money, but we are really voting to continue a process that might have with it future obligations of millions. That's how I see it. And I'm just a taxpayer sitting here who raised her hand to ask questions. And this is not really just about school environments and fixing the buildings, which are our responsibility, but it's also the stability of city finances. That's a big, big thing for me. So maybe it's time to sit down and say, how much is this going to cost years out? Can't we just come back to a discussion of maybe regionalization for part or all of Aquidneck Island? Because there's a point in time where the properties that pay taxes, and they're fewer than 10,000, I think they're about 9,700, are going to say, wait a minute here, you all, there's a limit to what we can pay. Sewer, water, school issues, and we need to sit down as part of this discussion. And so this is bothersome to me.
Madam
Yes,
Chair?
Before, I just want to clarify that one question that you had about future commitments and whether we'd have to give money back. This afternoon, myself and Councilor Camacho spent about 45 minutes on the phone with personnel from RIDE that is very involved in this program. And we asked that question every which way. It in no way affects anything that we've done. The rumor was out there it would affect the reimbursement from Pell School. Not true. That is a separate contract. There was a rumor out there that they take back the money that we were reimbursed for Rogers Roof. Not true. What they said to us, if in the 5-year process we did not meet, and you're using the figure of 13 million, they said, we haven't even seen what the strategic plan is yet. And we have the obligation, if we don't think something's necessary, to veto it and to remove it from your strategic plan, which could bring the number down. But what would happen, and we're fast-tracking Rogers Roof, if we didn't meet the commitment, whatever it was, we simply would not be able to reapply for this program. So, you know, just to answer your question, and I know it is the politics of fear. I have gotten the phone calls. I can't even believe. What I would like you to know is this document provided by the school department was the work of over 30 individuals consisting of administration members, teachers, members of the public, guests, attending over 16 public meetings. If I heard nobody knew about it, 16 public meetings. If you're interested, they were from October through March. And certainly, during that time, they were talking about the needs and the future needs of the schools. There was ample opportunity for those interested in improving our schools. We've heard nothing but good news coming from our school department. The other thing that I wanted to mention was this is simply a request for the council to approve the submission, which is tied into Rogers Roof as part of the program. So we're doing no more than approving the work that was done by many individuals over many months, just trying to make things better for the taxpayers and our students. Councilor Neville.
I just want to follow up. So, because it's my understanding, so we submit this as basically a planning document. By submitting and fulfilling this out, the work of creating the list, we're eligible for the reimbursement for the Rogers Roof project. Should we choose to do any additional work on this list, we would then be eligible to get reimbursement for that work, should we choose to do it.
Right.
We are under no obligation to do any of this future work besides what we've already committed to, right?
That's correct.
So it's a list that we could consider for future projects, should money be available, but if we don't submit this, we are unable to request reimbursement for any of these projects we would like to or perhaps choose to move forward with in the future.
Right.
Okay.
That's correct.
This program is for existing schools. We do get a reimbursement on new schools. We were very, very lucky with Pell School to get up to 44% reimbursement. And that's as a result of our delegation working very hard to bring that forward, and school administration. But, you know, any future projects will have to come in front of the council and be fully vetted. So, you know, there's...
Just as an aside, we are urging legislation that I'm going to provide to you soon, the support of legislation to increase the reimbursement, the percentage of the reimbursement, which would be wonderful.
Madam Chair.
Yes, Councilor Stokely?
Yeah, I just want to reiterate, the spreadsheet that we received is just an accurate accounting of the cost of repairs that have been kicked down the road for so many years. And it's the kind of information that we've been seriously lacking. And to turn this document into something that seems somewhat nefarious is disturbing. And it's one thing to be ill-informed, but it's another thing to use misinformation to affect public opinion and to serve a personal agenda. So I just want to say that I support this, and otherwise I think that we would be doing a disservice to the city.
Madam Chair?
Yes, Councilor.
I don't think that I can sit here and say, okay, somebody has a personal agenda, because Kate Leonard, believe me, has no personal agendas and never has. It is my job to sit here and ask questions. I was voted to be here to ask questions, and I think I do it pretty decently, because I certainly get under some people's skins, which is fine with me. I'm here because when I hear, well, these meetings were going on since October, and 30 people went to the meetings, and if people were interested, they should have gone to the meetings. Well, first of all, I'm interested. I'm not on the school committee. I didn't attend those meetings, but I certainly didn't get any updates that came to my mail slot or my email that said, oh, by the way, we're working on A, B, C, D, and by the way, it might end up being C, D, E, F. So we saw this on Monday, and today is Wednesday. So to put this in front of everybody for 2 days, to look at it and to vet and to ask questions that the public expects us to ask, I don't think is such a tragic, awful thing. And in terms of what are we committing to, it sounds like here we're not committing to anything, that it's a strategic plan that we would vote on. And I believe in strategic plans, and I believe in looking at things wholeheartedly and for years to come. But my question is, and it's not an easy question, because we're all sitting here, is if we agree to this strategic plan, are there any kinds of prongs that commit us to a certain dollar amount and how the money would be raised? Because I'm not one who's going to say, well, if the public does not agree, if we decide and if RIDE says, okay, these items are all great, and this plan is like 26 million, maybe it'll be 20, maybe it'll be 10, whatever the number is, if that comes to us, how are we going to raise the funds? And by doing so, what happens? Are we committing to this, whatever they tell us? And if so, and if the council
you're
doesn't
right.
send it over for a bond issue, and if it doesn't pass, does that mean that we have to fund it with something like general budget money?
Madam Chair.
I can answer both those questions if the
Okay.
answers are no and no. This is not, this doesn't obligate the city to anything. Absolutely not. The benefit of this, again, is the reimbursement, which we want, or the administration would like to get I compute it to be approximately $945,000 back into our coffers.
You're just talking about the roof for the
But the roof is part of this plan, and the roof is the only thing that has dedicated funds right now. Nothing else does. That's all up to you in the future. Future budget discussions, future CIP discussions, whatever this council and future councils wish to fund. We go through this all the time. I submit a CIP to you every year, which you accept in concept, and then we start to chop it down, and you make the ultimate decision as the city council as to what to fund in that CIP. This is nothing more than an application to get in line to get reimbursed for the roof. RIDE said you must have this comprehensive study done if you want anything, but there is no legal commitment to go forward with anything on this list at all. And indeed, maybe the list will be pared down after RIDE looks at it, but it's no matter. It's irrelevant. This is simply our need to get reimbursement, or our desire to get reimbursement on the roof. And as part of the application process, you had to, the box has to be checked off. Have you provided a comprehensive review of your public school facilities and their capital needs? Well, they're going to check the box. Yes.
So there is no monetary commitment here or in the future whatsoever for anything on this list
It's conceptual. I can't,
only?
I can't tell you, I can't tell you in a given instance that something on this list won't need to be done tomorrow. Because, if a heating system fails, like it did at City Hall, a week ago, the heating system has to be funded, it has to be repaired. Also, think about the Long Wharf Pump Station. We did not have a strategic plan of our sewer works, and that failed. It cost us $15 million. This is a valuable document going forward for not only the school department, but for the city, since we are the appropriating authority. This is something we can reflect on, that is in our face every year. If the council chooses not to fund this, or if we don't have a source of funds going forward, so be it. But it's still going to be there. The needs are still going to be there. The heating system may still be operating, but, it's on its last legs, as I understand it. So it's important that you understand and you grasp what this is. This is important to get done. It's important that it gets in. It's important that we get the reimbursement. It's a lot of money. So this is important that it goes forward. And the city administration, I don't want to sound like I'm beating a dead horse.
Yeah, don't preach here.
And preach about it, but I can preach for a while. It's an important process. We're complying with the process. If we didn't have to have the box checked on this, it would have been wise to have done this anyways. Because again, we talk about deferred maintenance. On this side of the ledger, we can talk about deferred maintenance on our side of the ledger too. And you know that I am obsessed with sewers. And you know that I'm obsessed with the brick sewers and the bricks we pull out of the collapsing brick sewers. So that's an example of not recognizing, or in some instances, deferring your maintenance and the failures that occur as a result of deferring your maintenance.
Can I say something, because it's connected to this? My whole commentary here is, I do not like government by emergency. I don't like anything where, hurry up, you have to do it. And that's my point of this. When the Long Wharf blew up, it cost us $15 million. Did we know it was going to come? No. It was as a result of not being proactive and doing what we should do. My thing with this is, I don't want anybody knocking on my door a year or two from now and say, you committed us to $26 million. So when I ask my questions, I expect answers because the public expects answers.
Well,
Counselor
if they
Leonard,
knock on
I
your
would
door, you
just-
tell them they're wrong, because it
Counselor
will be
Leonard,
wrong.
I would
Jake.
like to remind the council and yourself, we received a preliminary list
Yeah.
back in November
That's
when we
correct.
voted.
Yeah, thank you.
And
Preliminary.
that, yeah, of repairs that needed to be done. So this is not a new subject. This is something that has gone on for months with discussions. You know, it's not an emergency thing. What was an emergency is that it get in by the 16th, I think.
Madam Chair?
Or 15th, whatever the date, but, you
Could
know,
I just
Counselor.
get one piece of information?
Sure.
When was this product finished? It has to be submitted by the 15th. We have to vote it on tonight.
My gosh, it's,
But, I mean, how many days ago was it actually finished? Because it was on the 29th of January when you actually found out some of the dimensions of what had to be done.
Right.
Which then gave you, 30 or 35 days.
Well, as
The
Bill Rick-
wonder is that it's
Yeah.
gotten done.
yeah, it's evolved, that's correct. It's been a tough,
I would say, we just hired the facility manager who's been doing the work on this for the last few months.
Right.
And I think that was a great hire, the fact that we now have that joint city and school facilities manager who has the ability to actually create a document like this, and within a very short period of time was able to pull it together. And if we don't have this document, back to this sort of emergency planning, having these items on this list, should something suddenly radically break, we are eligible for reimbursement. If we don't submit this document and something does force us to take on an emergency repair, we at least now can be asking for the reimbursement.
yes.
Thank you.
If approved, yes. Counselor McLaughlin, did you have,
No, I was done. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
are there any other comments? Okay. Are there any comments from the public or any questions? Okay, hearing none, are we ready to?
Hold on.
What? Please identify yourself for the record.
Madam
Oh,
Chair,
3
members of the
minutes.
council, thank
Yeah.
you. David Carlin, 3 Rose Street in the city. 2 points that I'd like to address tonight. First of all, with respect to, and I have tremendous respect and admiration for City Manager Nicholson, and since I haven't been before you since the appointment, I congratulate you for a great appointment. I have to disagree a little bit with what he said and with what some of you have said this evening. If you approve the plan this evening, the city is obligated. The state takes this very seriously. The state does not want municipalities, school districts to submit plans that are unrealistic. They want realistic plans, and they want to know that you will be spending, that the city and the school department, through the city.
I have to interrupt you. That is not true. That is not true, and that is part of the problem that we're having right now with people that come up with their... We spent 45 minutes on the phone with 3 people intricately involved, and that is not true.
Well,
They
Madam Chair,
don't expect us, we determine, council determines what we can afford and what the taxpayers are willing to afford. And the taxpayers told us they want Rogers Roof done. You know,
I
I'm just-
appreciate your comment, but of course I have to defend what I just said.
You can disagree all you want.
Oh, Madam Chair, you effectively said that I'm not telling the truth. I'm telling you what the State Department of Education relayed
Who?
to me on the
Who?
telephone today.
Who?
It was an individual by the name of Mario De Silva, I believe.
No.
But I will check
No.
the last
We-
name.
no.
Mario is the first name, I'll check the last name. Madam Chair, we are, the process that the state sets up is a process that they take very seriously.
I
They
agree.
expect us, they do not obligate us They do not obligate us, as far as I'm aware, by way of taking money back. They do not obligate us to commit to 50% of what we put in our capital improvement plan. However, if we put $26 million in the capital improvement plan, and if the council approves the way that the school department approved, or the school committee approved, what the state expects, since it's a serious process, is they expect the city to spend 50% of that money over a 5-year period. And if we do not spend that money, I am told that we will be effectively kicked out of the reimbursement program. So that if we do not have in year 6, for example, or if we do have, I should say, in year 6, may I continue, Madam Chair?
Yeah, go ahead.
If we do have in year 6 a capital improvement issue,
Right.
but we have not fully spent the $13 million, which is 50% of what this plan dictates, then we will not be reimbursed by the state. That you can check. I don't know if the individual's
That-
last name is De Silva, but Madam
That
Chair,
is
with due
true.
respect, what I said to you and to the council is what I heard from the Department of Education this afternoon. And I would suggest to you and the members of the council that we should be prepared if we submit, if you approve the plan.
Right.
I did not vote to approve the plan last evening, nor did Mr. Leary. 5 others did, as you very well know. If you as a council approve the plan this evening, then you are effectively, there's an old statement or an old saying, a gentleman's agreement or a gentlewoman's agreement. We are providing a gentlewoman's or a gentleman's agreement with the state to spend 50% of what our capital improvement needs are over the 5 years. 13 million we're committing. There is
No,
there is,
you're wrong.
Madam Chair, that we have to agree to disagree with great
Correct.
respect.
Correct.
Dave,
Okay.
assuming you're correct about that, assuming that we have that limit, if we don't take this deal tonight, if we don't sign this, pass this tonight, we're still going to try to generate as much as possible. So the outcome will be, we're not going to be subject to that 35% anyway.
For the next 5 years.
Right. So if we do, there is a possibility that we could get that 35% reduction. But if we don't vote on anything, we're going to have the same outcome.
If you don't get up to bat, you can't hit.
That is a great expression. I believe that. If you don't try out for the team, you
That's right.
never play in the game. But what I am expressing to you, and I'll repeat it this evening, and I'm not going to,
Yeah.
debate back and forth with Councilor Flores or with you, Madam Chair, because we can do that in other
Then
forums. But what I originally said when I talked about my great respect for City Manager Nicholson is that we are, in effect, committing ourselves. The state has many, many ways to commit us to spend money. But one of the ways is not forcing us to spend 50% of what we say that we will commit to a capital improvement plan for the schools. However, in other words, they can't say, as you very well know, look, we're not going to give you aid to the city, or we're not going to reimburse you for other expenditures that the state reimburses the city for if you don't spend the 50% of the capital improvement plan, but for the schools. But what they do say is if you don't expend the 50% over 5 years, then you're out. You're finished. So before we approve a capital expenditure plan for the city, or for the school department, we should be very serious about our commitment as a city to spending that money over a 5-year period. And we have had effectively no public input.
We have had public input. The voters voted on a bond for Rogers.
Once again, we will have to agree to disagree. I absolutely agree on that. We voted for $6 million in November of 14. That was to provide handicap accessibility
And the
at
roof.
City Hall and to provide for
It's okay.
a replacement of roofs necessary at Rogers High School. We did not,
And
we
for a
did
number
not.
of others, a number of other
Well,
projects.
there were a number of things on that
Right.
particular ballot, but there was never real serious public discussion about a $26 million capital improvement plan for the schools.
Yes, Councilor Segley.
Mr. Carlin, what would you propose us to do for the next 5 years? Not take 35% reimbursement on all these on projects that could possibly come up? Like, for instance, the roof is definitely going to happen, but we're talking about maybe a heating system or any project. We're going to just not take 35% reimbursement because we might have to, you know, because in the 6th year, you're saying that we are required to spend money. What do you expect us to do? Not take the 35%?
Well, let me address your question. This capital improvement plan is an ongoing plan. You do not have to submit as a school department or as a city in collaboration with the schools a 5-year plan that will be addressed for the next time in 2021. The reimbursement for school construction or for capital improvements at the schools was put into the fiscal year 17 plan and the fiscal year 16 plan by Governor Raimondo. It was frozen for 4 fiscal years, as you probably know. So your question, I'm confused by your question in part because we've had that circumstance that has existed for 4 years.
If we don't submit this paperwork, if we don't submit this plan to the state, then that means we will not be eligible for 35% on the Rogers roof. Is that correct?
That is incorrect, in my opinion. If you do not,
That is correct.
Yeah.
if you submit a $26 million capital improvement plan to the state, which
Yeah.
includes a $2.7 million component, then it's the entire plan being considered by the State Department of Education. Why not
You know
submit a
what?
$2.7 million plan? The voters in the city of Newport never approved anything beside the capital improvement. Ms. Swistak is telling me that I should be
Yes,
quiet,
yes.
so you invited me to
How many
answer your
meetings-
questions.
How many meetings for the facilities have you gone to?
I have
That's what I would
100%
like.
attendance rate at school committee meetings, and
Well,
I
it
was
looks
never informed before, as Councilor Leonard said, apparently with you all on the council as well, that this project for reimbursement from the state, or this total from reimbursement for the state, from the state, $26 million, was being requested. Never told.
You know, I do know.
So, Mayor, I have 100% attendance at our meetings. I
Okay.
take my responsibility as a member of the school committee very
I
seriously.
didn't ask you about meetings, I was talking about the facilities. But the other thing
We have a subcommittee chair.
I wanted to point out is that you were a little bit late coming in. I'm not sure if you heard that the Department of Ed stated they are going to look at this list and review it. There may be items in there that they will take out, which would reduce the number. You're talking 13 million. We don't know, and the school department doesn't know until we send it in, so.
Appreciate that.
I just wanted to point that out.
My point was, you are absolutely telling the state by a gentlewoman's or a gentleman's agreement that you intend to spend $13 million
That's
over
not
the next
so.
5 years.
Okay,
Madam Chair,
thank
We
you.
will have to.
Yes.
Chair, I'd
say.
like to
Yes.
jump in here.
Yes,
I mean,
Mr.
the city
McLaughlin.
manager is quite keen of telling us we speak by resolutions,
Right.
and we do. And there is no resolution before us tonight that says what you are stating. In your mind, that may be what you think we're doing, but we are not requesting the taxpayers to spend $26 million. We are not proposing to recommend spending $26 million.
Right.
We have before us a vote to approve the submission of the Stage 2 application. If by some way it means something different to other people, so be it. It only means what the resolution we're voting on says, as far as this council is concerned, and we cannot be bound to do anything more than what this resolution says, no matter what anybody else thinks.
And, you know, you're
May I,
coming
Madam
at
Chair?
this, you're coming at this from the point of view of being fiscally responsible. But by not voting for this, we're achieving just the opposite. we're not throwing our hat in the ring for the 35% reimbursement, so we're actually achieving just the opposite of that. But
Madam
that's it.
Chair, if I might, with regard to Councilor McLaughlin's comment, I did not suggest, in fact, I suggested the exact opposite about 7 or 8 minutes ago, that the state has many ways to force us to spend our money, but in this case, they cannot force us to spend the $13 million.
Right.
I understand, Councilor McLaughlin, what we're here dealing with. I've been around an agenda once or twice, so I have never suggested that what you are here to do is to expend $26 million of the city's money. It should be very clear to you, though, what you are here to do, and in my opinion, perhaps we agree to disagree, but in my opinion, the State Department of Education does not take an intent to commit to a 5-year capital improvement plan lightly. They want us to take our word seriously and to spend 50% of that money or more. So I think the counselor knew that. and-
I
and
can't
please don't bend
attest-
my words.
I can't attest to what they're thinking and their opinions are from RIDE. So, I just think that to, use and I will say it, the politics of fear that we are spending $26 million is absolutely ludicrous to imply that, to send out emails and to question the integrity of your fellow school committee members and city council members is not good politics.
So you're addressing me in this case, and I have never questioned the integrity of my school committee colleagues, never addressed the
All right.
integrity, or never asked that the integrity of the council members be addressed. I mean, maybe, perhaps, the issue is that folks don't know how to interpret or to look at and diagnose a statement. Politics and public comment is full of statements, diagnosis, but to suggest that I have ever impugned anybody's integrity is wrong, number one. And number two, to suggest that a person who has an opinion, especially someone like what I am doing this evening, and questioning what the next step is in itself the politics of intimidation. It's wrong. It's wrong.
Madam Chair?
Thank you.
Madam
Okay,
Chair?
I make a
is there
motion we move
anyone
to vote.
else, anyone else from the public that would like to speak?
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Joe Gaines, 227 East Avenue, and Chair.
You got to speak in the mic, Joe.
Oh,
Whoa.
I know what that feels like.
I need to go out in space and go a couple of minutes. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, do I need to repeat my introduction?
No, you don't need to
No?
repeat it, but you do need to keep it within a guideline.
Oh, I'll be very short.
Okay.
I really just want to thank you for the cooperation that has been extended from the council and the collaboration between the council and the school committee. This is something that we have been hoping for 15 years, and finally it's happening. The city can only benefit when we work together. When the council acknowledged that the properties were theirs and took the capital improvements over, that was one step. We can help the city by working together and signing off on those projects, because the city can't apply for reimbursement on their own. They need the school committee. We need each other. We're finally working together, and I thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Madam Chair?
Yes, Counselor.
I want to ask one more question, because before I vote, I like all the answers that I can get. It seems like everybody has agreed so far that I've listened to that the city, first I hear, is obligated to spend 50% over a 5-year period, blah, blah, blah. The question I have is, once the state has looked at what we have submitted, and once the state has vetted it, and they say what is what they think necessary or not. Then I heard that, well, that's true. If we don't commit to that, we'd be kicked out of the program. My question is this. I know the state has many programs. What program and what are we talking about? What is this specific program and what does it mean if you get, quote, kicked out of the program? What specific program is this document for?
Well, unfortunately, I'm going to have to bring Bill Riccio up here. I can answer the question generally, but I think you're entitled to a few more details on it. I'll tell you what I know, and while he makes his walk up here.
Mr. Riccio,
It's not
please
kicked-
come forward.
You're not kicked out of any program, but there is,
Right.
if you don't meet the threshold of what's required, you're not eligible to continue to participate. I'll call it in
the
year 6
program. But
until
what
you
is
make up
the program?
well, I'll let them define the name of the program. I understand it to be the
Mr.
Fast
Riccio,
Track
could you
Repair
come forward,
Program.
please?
Can you repeat the question?
Okay, here it is.
Yeah, what's the name of
It's
the program
yeah.
that we're applying for?
This is a
That's the
new
question.
program under RIDE, it's called the Fast Track, which is different than the traditional housing aid formula.
Okay, so, here, we have the Fast Track program. State looked at what we submitted, state vetted it and said, okay, you gave us 26 million on your list. We really think you need 15. All right, so let's say year 6, it seems like our obligation would be like 50% of the whatever, let's say 12 million, 6 million. What happens then if we didn't meet that? What happens in year 6? What does it mean that you're not eligible to continue?
And let's just assume we haven't spent anything more than the $3 million
Yeah.
that we're spending for the roof, right? So go ahead and answer the
happens
question,
then?
Bill.
So to my understanding, the delta is then not eligible for reimbursement.
Right. Exactly, that's what we were told.
That
So
means
so without
anything
a
that we had
without a
submitted
plan-
and had not paid for.
Yeah, so the delta, yes.
Can I mention one
At
thing?
present,
And
we're not eligible for reimbursement now,
Right, for anything. Right.
for anything,
Right,
inclusive of the roof,
okay.
Until we submit this.
Right.
until we submit it and it's approved.
All right, so then, if, let's say, okay, 15 million, we agree. And if we don't raise the 15 million to take care of those things and something happens on that list, then we are not eligible for reimbursement, which we are not eligible for reimbursement today anyway. Is that fair to say?
I agree with that statement, yes.
Okay.
I'm sorry. She said, if we don't raise the $15 million, where were
To
we
do
obligated
the
to raise $15
improvement.
million?
we're not.
Wait, you're not.
And you agreed to it, so I want to make sure that I understand what we're talking about here.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, I think, Bill, the question is, I want you to listen to the question. And I don't know where the 15 million comes
I
in.
made it up.
If
to give
the
us a
capital
number.
improvement program that's being submitted, the capital improvement plan is being submitted, if RIDE comes back and says, hey, all we'll consider will be $15 million worth of items within this list as being potentially eligible for reimbursement. The question then is, what do we need to do to continue to be eligible for reimbursement? First off, we have to spend the money. We know that. That's simple, right?
Yes.
All right. Then the second thing is, when we come to year 6, right, and we haven't spent 15 million, but we've spent $7.5 million, which is 50% of that, then what? Then what? What happens in year 6? Can we further qualify to resubmit an application in year 6 with a new capital improvement plan? My understanding is the
told,
answer is yes.
Yes.
Right,
So
the
if we
answer is
only spend $5 million, as I understand it, RIDE will then say, you must spend another, and you're 6, you must spend another $2.5 million to get to that 50% until you can qualify further
More money.
for reimbursement, based upon a new submission.
Okay. And the big question to me is, and to everybody I think listening, if we didn't submit this, and that means we would not be eligible,
Right.
and would it matter later on? Also, I had the question worded better for 2 minutes or 5 minutes before going around and around, but if we're not eligible for the money now, which we wouldn't be, right, if we didn't submit this, correct?
Correct.
If we didn't submit this, we wouldn't be eligible. So if we submitted it and we didn't meet our obligation, then would we get funds then either? No, right?
No, it's based upon, as you do the item,
Right, then you get the funds.
as
I
we understand it,
that.
you get
It's
reimbursed. You're
reimbursement.
in the cycle, as we
reimbursement.
understand it, is an annual cycle. So if we start the roof in July of 17, whatever we incur will be up until, what do we say, June of 18, we'll get reimbursed. It's a retroactive reimbursement for items that are actually done. You don't get
No, you're not going to
reimbursement
get
for
money
things
for
that aren't
something
done.
you didn't do.
Right.
I mean, the word's reimbursement.
Right, so it's kind of it's a revolving process.
Okay, I will say this, and I'll be the first to say it. I heard what's been said here. I hope it's totally accurate. And I would support this because I think something is better than nothing, for sure. But if I find out later on that what happens is we shot ourselves in the foot and we are obligated to pay a lot more money, I'm going to be the first one to say, excuse me, but I was told something that wasn't true, and that's why I voted for it. So I'm passing it on as accountability.
All right, let's vote.
All right, you ready to vote?
Yes.
Yes.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it. Thank you.
Action number 5501.
This one's easy. Okay. Madam Chair, the City of Newport Fire Department recommends retaining the services of Donovan & Sons of Middletown, Rhode Island to replace the existing oil-fired steam boiler heating system with a natural gas-fired hot water heating system that will service the basement, ground floor, and portions of the second floor, and to install a new HVAC system that will provide for both heating and cooling in the necessary areas on the second floor at Station 1 for the sum of $218,690. The amount is currently budgeted. I move approval with accompanying resolution, Madam Chair.
Second.
There's a motion second. Discussion. Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it.
Madam Chair, I make a motion to adjourn as council and convene as Board of License Commissioners.
Second.
There's a motion second to adjourn as license, or to adjourn as council and be license commissioner. Any discussion? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it.
Madam Chair, I make a motion to approve the consent calendar in its entirety.
Second.
There's a motion second to approve the consent calendar in its entirety. Any discussion? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it.
Madam Chair, motion to adjourn.
Second.
There's a motion second to adjourn. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it.